Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July.
And this is a great day to celebrate this great day of independence, knowing that it was founded on Christian values, and it was founded on a holy thought, a very holy thought that all men were created equal. It is such a wonderful gift that we have, that we were able to be living and to be born in this country. It is such a great honor to be able to be here. For nowhere in the world do people think the way we do. Nowhere in the world do people think the way we do. And as Americans, we take for granted the freedom we have. And because we have been born in freedom, that whole idea guides our very thoughts and the way we interact with each other and the way we understand the world around each other. And that's good. And so we know that our country was founded on Christian values and was founded for religion, not from religion. When we look at the founders of this great nation, they believed and they practiced their faith. That in itself, by their very action of believing and living out their religion, is proof that our nation was founded for religion, not from religion. It is not freedom from religion, because the very ones who wrote the Declaration of Independence, the very ones who wrote the Constitution, practiced their faith from many faiths. By the way, Charles Carroll was the Catholic that signed the Declaration of Independence. And his brother John Carroll, the first bishop in this land, is the one who helped the United States found the justice system based on Catholic principles. He was able to be a doorway, to be a communication to the Vatican. They didn't listen to everything, but it brought about the principles by which we live our lives in its justice system. So everybody was able to practice the faith and allow their faith to influence their community in a positive way. But there were laws there to keep anything from affecting it in a negative way. And so people learned to love one another by the very fact that we have free will, reminding ourselves that God created us with free will, knowing that from Adam and Eve, before the fall, he knew Adam and Eve would sin, that he would have to send his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, to suffer and to die, that God himself would have a stake in this free will that we have, that he would be wounded by every sin we would ever commit in our entire lives throughout all of time, and yet God was still willing to risk this free will so that we would learn to love one another. Because if we did not have free will, there would be no human experience of love. And that would not be an act of love from God to us. And so he was willing to risk the suffering that we would endure and that he would endure in us. For he has made us all a holy and sacred temple of God. And so the United States of America was the first country to take that risk with God, that it would be born out of freedom, that we could use our free will to do what is right, what is good, and what is holy in his sight, that we would raise each other up, love each other, care for each other, and indeed be attentive to each other. This is the ideals Don't let anybody tell you any lies. This is the ideals of America. And just because slavery didn't end right away doesn't mean that it wasn't intended. For to eradicate things and to eradicate a society and a culture is, in fact, necessarily to do violence to it and to all its people. And so in the wisdom of the founding fathers, they did not eradicate that slavery right away. Yet that violence would be done to America within 100 years in the Civil War. By the very fact that we had declared all men equal, that statement was a nail in the coffin to slavery. It was destined to die. And America would be paving the way to the end of slavery throughout all of the world. It is by the blood of Americans and by the Civil War that the death of slavery would not be born just from America, just in America, but because America got rid of slavery, the rest of the world followed, except for China and India. And we allow them to tell us how bad we are. We're willing to hand money, hand over fist to them, while they still enslave the people who make our products. There is a wisdom in not eradicating slavery right away. The nation was fragile. And in retrospect, we can look back now. If we tried to eradicate slavery immediately, there would be no United States of America today. Either there would be two countries, the North and the South, and those in the South would still be in slavery, or we would have annihilated each other so badly, Britain would have come back over and taken over again. There would be no United States, and slavery would have continued. So in the wisdom of the founding fathers and in the wisdom of God, we held on in patience as God would have us do, as God has done for us, each and every one of us. He has shown us so much patience and kindness. And so we thank God for that eventually. The blood that was spilt in America would be graced to enter into the world and bring hope to all peoples. I find it ironic that many nations, they try as hard as they may to imitate this great nation, but they have a difficult time with this. They have a different understanding of what freedom is. So many of us have succumbed to the lie of these foreign thoughts that freedom is the idea that you can do whatever you want. That's from Satan. Freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want. From the very inception of America, we understood that with freedom comes responsibility. True freedom comes in the heart and in our conscience, where we know we are doing what is right and what is good and what is holy in God's eyes. Freedom is knowing that we don't have to lock the doors, afraid of who may enter in. That we don't have to be afraid about who's got a gun. We don't have to be afraid of the violence in society. When America was born, every American knew that we were dependent upon each other, that we needed to learn to love one another. Up north, when the people would be farming, especially in, say, like Nebraska or maybe even farther up north, far up north to the Dakotas, it was rough. When people were squatting land, you had your neighbor 10 miles away. And if your crop did not do well, you are dead. It's only time. Because you didn't have food to eat. You are not going to suffer or to survive the winter. You needed to rely on your neighbor to fulfill the lack of food that you had. And then the next year, maybe your neighbor didn't have a full field, and you needed to help them out. Americans knew that there was a responsibility in raising each other up and helping each other and loving each other and caring for each other, never willing another person to die because that person was important and essential to your well-being and your family's well-being, whether they were your family or not. It is the arduous work of Americans and the lessons that they learned from their very birth that we learn to love one another, that we were able to care for one another. We've got a long way to go. We do have a lot of prejudices. But every people in every land has prejudices. There hasn't been a society that hasn't had prejudices. But we still look forward as a living hope one day that as a nation we journey together as brothers and sisters in Christ because we have all been born in Christ. As brothers and sisters in God's holy family, whether blood relations or by spiritual relations to each other, we look and hope to journey together as we follow God's call that He has given us to love one another more and more each day. That we would realize that the vision, that vision would bear fruit in the freedom, which is love. That opportunity of freedom will be expressed in love for one another. The dream, that American dream,